What it do, anime crew? Amen. Listen, today I'm going to be ranting about the album Exmilitary by Death Grips per the request of Funky Boy Haas on Patreon. If you guys want to rant, $5 a month plus patrons, get it once a month over there. This is probably one of the better albums Funky Boys requested me to listen to, or not one of the better ones. One of the ones I like more. I do know that this album has like a really heavy reputation, and just the band of Death Grips in general has like a really strong reputation among people who really care about music. I want to say up front, I'm not going to say anything about it that hasn't been said like a million times before, much more eloquently and probably in much greater detail. I don't really know what I'm looking at here. I'm a little bit more of a Philistine than most, other than the fact that I just know that a lot of these songs go really hard. Like the vocal delivery is the thing that definitely caught me the most. The fact that some of the songs have like a sort of structure of like deteriorating into themselves. Like the chorus starts like blending into the verses and stuff like that. Just kind of like getting disoriented as it goes on. A lot of the lyrics have like qualities of hedonism and even explicitly Satanism, which is something that I guess is pretty interesting to me. Because I guess, it's called ex-military. I don't think anyone in Death Grips is actually literally ex-military. Maybe they are. But I think it's supposed to be like a character, and kind of makes sense for somebody like that to turn to Satanism. Because you have all like this pent-up anger and aggression, but at the same time, I guess maybe you've sort of experienced the worst of what the system wants to demand of you and order, and what it means to be a good person, and what it means to be whipped into shape and put in your place. When a lot of people, they come out of the military and they see themselves as having done terrible things. They see themselves as having trusted the system too much, having the system have taken advantage of them for its own personal material gain, for like the ultra elite, and for them to have sacrificed not only their own blood, sweat, and tears, but the blood of other people who were just caught up in that whole thing. And that's something that they have to live with for the rest of their life. It's like a lot of people are extremely indignant when they get out of the military. And it sort of makes sense. The energy of this album sort of makes sense from that perspective. And the origin of something like Satanism, even, because that's sort of, in my experience, it seems to be more of a reactionary, not in like the loaded sense, but it seems to be more of a reactive ideology that comes from distrust and being betrayed or wronged by the status quo, and doing exactly what everybody tells you ought to do, still being taken advantage of by that system, and never being promised, or never being given what you were promised, or seeing how that system takes advantage of other people, or anything like that. Just any general irreverence of the orthodoxy sometimes ends up manifesting in things like Satanism. Anybody who is too trusting, who is not selfish enough, who sees some people are too good-natured, and sometimes to some extent sheltered, or they are, groomed into certain things when they're younger, and they just couldn't possibly be worldly enough to know better. And they turn to something like that to become more selfish, because ironically, they're usually like really good people who have a hard time wrapping their head around how not good a lot of people, specifically people in power and influential people, are. And it leads them to actually not doing the right thing. They don't trust themselves enough. They don't follow their own desires enough. And sometimes, ironically, turning to something that can be a little bit more of a self-centered view. And make no mistake, this album is destructive and self-destructive, dealing with things like substance abuse and just blind anger at times, sometimes flying off the rails and turning into nothing but pure catharsis. It's not always the best thing, but sometimes for some people it can actually be the right direction to move in, because they are too trusting and they are too good in the traditional sense. That's not always something that you should always want, because being good is kind of how they control you. And a lot of times, that's what it all boils down to, is not letting yourself be controlled and allowing yourself to make your own decisions. The problem is a lot of people who do not have that personality type end up getting into Satanism as well. And then they just start crazy cults and cabals, and then they end up just as bad as the organized religion that they were initially rebelling against. I think I see a lot more cases of that, at least in my personal experience, but I don't judge somebody for being a Satanist off rip, because I've known enough in my life. I've known enough people online and shit like that to know where the ideology comes from. I understand it. I understand that it's different for a lot of people, in a lot of ways it is an affront to organized religion. So to ascribe overly centralized meaning to it would be sort of betraying the point. But I don't know why. This has just sort of been what this this rant has become, is me talking about Satanism. It's one of those things that can also be really performative. But this dude's pissed the fuck off. I gotta say, Death Grips is pissed the fuck off, and I can feel it here on this album. And I really appreciated that. I thought there was a lot of really great songs. I really enjoyed listening to them more than a lot of albums that I've heard recently, and it's very unique. It's very unique. You can feel the emotions in the structure of the song. My cat is ripping the skin off my fucking arm right now. Jesus fucking Christ. She just jumped on me and just dug her claws. She was going to fall, and she just dug her claws into my arm and just dead hang like all of her weight, and now my arm is bleeding. So thanks for that, Dusty. That was really cool. Yeah, this was a really good album. I don't know what to say about it musically, because it does seem like it was pretty ambitious. I'm sure a billion people have talked about it once again with better backgrounds and more insight than me. And I have to go clean this fucking wound off my arm because of my dumbass cat, who I love. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about it. I really enjoyed it, and I really enjoyed the messaging of it. Y'all let me know what you think down in the comments below. All right, false alarm. There was just a teeny amount of blood. My arm hurt like shit, but we're all good. Yeah, really good album.